Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our session today for um, our school counseling group for you seniors, 12th graders. Mr. Anderson here, and I think it's really important that we first of all look at a couple of things today. One of the things I want to make sure we understand that we have these group rules, right? We're going to make sure that we allow respect for individuals when people are talking. We want to make sure that we are allowing people to form their own opinion, have the information that they want to provide within the group, in the class here. In this lesson delivery today, um, there's a lot of information. This is the first session in this particular unit that we're going to talk about in a minute. We are going to have a kind of a pre-test unit evaluation. We're also going to have a lesson evaluation as well. And what I use those for, everybody, is a couple different things. Is for your benefit. Okay? Is for your benefit. So I want to make sure that we all understand that first. And I'll go over that more specifically in just a moment here. Um, if I do look to the side, I am simply looking at the time and making sure I'm respecting everybody's time today. I'm looking around to make sure that everybody is here available, and then people in the classroom, and then via online. The next thing is to no cell phones, no cell phones, distractions in this particular situation, because the information is for your benefit. Is for your benefit. I want to make sure that you understand that. Another thing too is that we leave enough space for each other to share. Not only that respect of our opinions, our ideas, or thoughts, but that you have the time to share. And so please respect if that time is allotted. All right. All right. Of course, if there's any questions, this would be the time I would insert times for any questions, comments before we begin. So I'm going to share my screen, and essentially I would be sharing it on a PowerPoint as well. One of the things I want you to do is I want you to look at this unit evaluation, this unit pre-test evaluation, and essentially I'm sharing the statements, and you either will say, this is a lot like me. And again, you're answering for yourself. You have to make sure you understand that you are answering for yourself. And again, you're not answering for your friend, and those kind of things that I know that a lot of you are close, and you know each other very well. But this is for your benefit. And this is essentially what I'm about to talk about is as you're exploring your senior year in high school, right? There's a lot of questions you may have, and you might feel like you have a lot of things that you are truly do understand about your next steps. But this is really important that we start looking at, in my way, I think it's important as a counselor to look at theories. But how are we putting the theories, right, from paper into practice? This is kind of where we start with that. So when we start the statements, this is a unit pretest. This is not for you to say that I need to get everything right, because really, essentially, it is not in this objective way like your exams in a regular subject. So please understand that you're answering the best you can, a lot like me, moderately like me, in the middle. Not sure, maybe you're not really sure, moderately not like me, and not at all like me. And the statements are going to be revolved around, in the beginning of the unit, it's going to revolve really essentially around the whole unit we're about to talk about with self-determination. Okay. And so here are the statements. I am motivated to learn new things during school. I am competent in my most successful subjects. And you have to think about what those successful subjects are. And again, what do you deem what do you deem, excuse me, in terms of what does that mean to be successful? Does it mean an A? Maybe it means an A for you. Maybe it means a B for somebody else. But what does that mean in that sense? I am motivated at life when doing something challenging. I show independence in my daily tasks. I engage in challenging situations as an opportunity to grow and learn. I feel that I can step outside of my comfort zone during those difficult moments. And again, difficult moments, just to clarify, anything, many of these things could be in school, but also you are outside of school time, right? Think about school as your professional time, outside of school as your personal time, um, as you feel those situations. I am always looking for experiences that challenge the way I think and do in relationship to myself and the world, maybe locally, maybe nationally. I am motivated by the idea of contributing to the world outside of high school. That is very specific. Okay. And I feel secure. I also feel secure in my ability to seek out new opportunities for the future. I am the kind of person who embraces those unlike me. I can relate myself to others that are similar. Now, and those are all areas of my academics, personality, and views of life. Okay. And I can relate myself to others that are completely different than me. So in this situation, you might be unfamiliar kind of what this means. What is this direction that you're taking in the situation? That's the whole point of a pretest, is to be able to help me and you when we have these personal conversations. You and I, this is information that's confidential between the two of us. When we do talk about this information, it's really important that we look at this as a conversation. But then also at the end of talking about this lesson, at the end of this unit, it is really essentially now, where do we stand? Do we feel like the information, as you will have, each unit does have a pre and post test. And again, a little bit different on the test versus your subjects, like a math test, a science test, right? It's essentially to see where you stand, where your understanding is with this information. Okay. All right. So that's really important. Again, make sure you check. And again, I would encourage you. I would like to. Let me just specify. I would very much appreciate um, that one box is checked for each one. So you have to really do a point of where do I best fit into that. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. So I'm going to stop that share, and then I'm going to share our unit lesson for today. So our unit lesson, session 1, is called Self-Determination, Exploring Motivation, Exploring Your Motivation. So as a school counselor, it's very important that you understand that my role is for you to understand that where I'm coming from, where I'm guiding you through this lesson. And I think you're at this stage right now where it's important for you to understand this, and I think that you can understand this. My biggest thing is supporting your development as a student, okay? Where you're discovering where you're at in life, right? Providing the culturally appropriate instructions and appraisal and advisement to you as a student. If there's any concerns or anything like that that you feel that you need to have a personal conversation with me, my door's open. Okay. Uh, the comprehensive school counseling program and everything that we do here in the program counseling units and anything that we do with you as a team, as a group, as a class, information is research based. The interventions that we use will help to close achievement attainment information, um, or achievement, excuse me, attainment information, attendance, discipline, resource, and opportunity gaps. So again, it might not pertain to anyone or anyone specific or at all. But it's really important that you understand that these are things that we are going to be using in the delivery of our curriculum. Finally, in academic, career, and social emotional planning, this is the journey that you are in right now. You are exploring this point. So today's learning objectives, you will be able to develop a sense of what your values are and characteristics that are in that exploration to what motivates you. Students will be able to learn how to best serve themselves based on their motivation and values. This is all about you. These lessons that we are doing are all about you and where your place is. This is not a comparison to your friends, colleagues, anybody else. And you will draw to your general interests in life. That will be inward in a lot of ways when we talk about this. Okay. Everybody should have paper, pencils, notebooks. The notebooks are for the journaling purposes. So to get started really is the essential question is, how does motivation help lead students to discover more about themselves? What does that mean? And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to skip right to the pretest. I want you to uh, write this down, and I would have inserted um, the opportunity or put out the opportunity for you to have this pretest in front of to tell me what do you think motivation is? How do you measure motivation? What is intrinsic motivation? And what is extrinsic motivation? So please pause the video right now if you want to answer those questions. All right, I've given you all time to look at that, and I'm going to have you turn those in. And again, it's great because at the end of the unit, we're going to, after the unit evaluation post-test, we are going to then see what you are thinking and in comparison what motivation is. And probably even better at the end of this lesson, we would compare notes to saying what is motivation. Do you know like the Webster's dictionary version of what motivation is? So what I'm going to do right now is, what have you done in your life that you are most proud of? What are those moments with family? What are those moments with friends? But I really want you to challenge yourself to guide yourself in the idea of what are you most proud of, what you've done in school, in a job, in a work environment, right? We know your parents or guardians probably, right? I could assume, or somebody that's close to you that could say, yes, this is what I'm proud of you most of or for. But what is motivation? The word that I feel like you should know is the drive. The drive. What is the drive? We could think about what motivates you to come to school. Is it grades, right? For some of you, it's athletics. For many of you, it might be that recognition, right? That recognition of honor roll, fun. That motivation could be supportive relationships, not only with your friends, your peer network, but teachers, right? Opportunities, athletic opportunities, academic opportunities. We can't assume, right, that everybody is at the same level of motivation and what that means for you. So when we think of intrinsic motivation, we think of that inner point, right? When somebody is acting in such a way that we drive, what drives us to behave in such a way is that feeling inside of us that there's no physical award, there's no physical reward, there's no physical anything that is given to us. It is a moment inside of our hearts, in our bodies, that says, this feels good and I want to do it again. Um, you work so hard. For example, you work so hard on a test. You work so hard on an exam, semester exam, and you put hours and hours and hours into it, and you finally get the grade, and you it's a grade you wanted. How does it feel? How does it feel? It could feel great. Most likely does feel great. That is an intrinsic motivation because you know what it feels like to be able to get that grade. It's that drive inside of us. And I realize sometimes this can be redundant. It's stuff that I feel like many high schoolers don't really think about is that motivation. Now, extrinsic motivation is that physical award. For example, I used to do a lot of work with PBIS, positive behavior interventions and supports. And what that extrinsic motivation was we're going to make sure that we behave in such a way, follow the expectations in such a way, right? Now, I'm not saying this would pertain to the high school level, but I'm giving you an example to think about that further. What you can think about that further, and what that means is then what that means is you behave in such a way, you get so many points or so many stars on your behavior chart by another week or by another 2 weeks. And then if you get, say, 15 stickers, you get a candy bar, you get a treat. What drives that is that candy bar in that situation. Now, as you get older, and a lot of the stuff with PBIS says, as you get older, that those extrinsic awards or rewards, I guess you could say, motivators, I should say motivators, excuse me, should be less and less because that's not the way life works, right? People go to work. You're all working, right? Some of you are working. You have reward. Is the paycheck, is that extrinsic or is that intrinsic, right? Now we go to work. We're motivated to go to the work because that gives us a paycheck. And when we get a paycheck, we can do things with that money. We have that freedom that drives you. Maybe literally, figuratively, right? It drives you. So find an item, place, and person that brings you happiness. And I want you to connect that motivation, what motivates you in that life. So think of those well-established things, those places, those people, those items throughout this lesson. And I'm going to ask you a question. Do these help motivate you in life? Maybe your car, maybe your football team, maybe your teammates, maybe coffee. Does that motivate you? Some of them on various scales. But the thing is, your motivations, and what drives you when thinking about that and brings you happiness, right? I think it's important to create that mindset as we go in to continue about what we talk about with self-determination. Now, lessons 2, 3, and 4, we'll talk about autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and what that means and how that's going to help you think about your future as you are navigating from a senior life in high school now into what we call the real world. Okay. How does now think about those things that I talked about, and when you think about in terms of your motivations, people that things that make you happy, that drive you. Now, does that help guide your decisions to do better as a person, right? As a student, as a family member, as a friend. Now, I think it's important for us to think about those. In this situation, I'm gonna write those words on the board. I want you to think of those things. Now, in other situations I talked about behavior, there are things that keep us grounded in life, keep us motivated to follow rules, right? Whether it be behaving in such a way in high school because we do not want to mark on our grades, we don't want to talk to our parents, we don't want something taken away from us, cell phones taken away from us, right? Those cell phone devices would be considered an extrinsic award. So think about examples in your own life. How does this transfer to what we know about high school and what can help us outside of high school? All those elements that we've talked about, that you've thought about as you discussed in your groups, how do those help you in those situations? Right? When we think about purpose, which is another word really for determination. When we talk about self-determination, we talk about self-purpose. Right? Your purpose, you're working to find your purpose in life. That's what is important as a senior in high school, as you find your purpose. Right? But as you find your purpose, you are navigating a variety of things: school, work, family, friends, sports, activities. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of loaded information that we talk about. Now, I challenge you next is we're going to role play. In this situation, I would role play a situation to motivate you to do well. What motivates you to drive safely, if that's the case? What motivates people in general to follow by the rules? Is there is a fear of punishment. What motivates me, for example, to drive in a certain way is I don't want to get a ticket because I don't want to lose money because that money can be used for other things in a more purposeful way, right? So what I'm going to do in this situation is I want to think of a situation that once you graduate high school, think to the future a little bit, challenge yourself to think to the future. I want you to ask yourself, where are you? Where are you going? Why are you doing that? Okay. Now, in that situation, we're going to role play a part right now where you would find a moment of joy in your life, a moment of pleasure, fun, or you could totally think of a situation that would use fear as a way to help motivate them. And in this situation, as seniors, I would hope that our goal is to graduate. Are you motivated? In that situation, as we get motivated to do something, we find that drive and that drive for purpose, right? So we're as school counselors, we want to get you to graduate on time, but ultimately, we're not the ones that are making that happen. You are. We can put all the resources, all the help, every situation, but it's up to you. But as you graduate, as you're about to graduate, when you walk across that stage to get that diploma, we would hope that you would have some sort of purpose, next steps. And that's what these 4 lessons are in the next 4 sessions that we meet are about helping you find that purpose, that resolution. What's that resolution? Next steps. What are your next steps? Right? But it's important when we talk about these things in your role playing situation, you find those moments. And how does it make you feel? How does that make you feel? And so again, asking those questions, as I would ask you that question is where are you right now? Where are you? Are you in a 4-year college, university? Are you in a 2-year college? Are you in a tech school? Are you in a trade school? A diploma? Are you getting a diploma somewhere, right? Or are you going right into the workforce? Maybe the Army, maybe the Marines, maybe the Navy, the Armed Forces, whatever you're doing. Those are all great choices. But we have essentially, as school counselors, we want you to have a purpose. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, it is important as a school counselor that we provide you opportunities to develop a positive attitude towards learning. Learning now, learning tomorrow, learning outside of high school. You should be a lifelong learner. But we cannot do that. We can help you create that purpose, that drive, that plan. But remember, we're not limited to a university. We're not limited to a college, right? There's a lot of options out there. A lot of options. And some people have a lot of uh, uh, help from their family. We recognize that, but a lot of times people do not. But I think it's important at all levels that we help you, right? Help you determine a situation where you can think of those situations, where you can think of those possibilities. Okay. Now we think of values. Those are those essentially those skills, right? And at this time, I would hand out a value sheet, and I want you to look at those values, and I want you to look at the values, whether it be autonomy's on there. We'll talk about that in one of our lessons tomorrow or next week. I mean, um, a value could be wealth, it could be health, um, it could be boldness, it could be kindness, empathy. There's a lot of values in there. Those values essentially are not just things that you say, I value this. It's truly living by those. is developing skills around those, right? As a counselor, empathy is a big part of what I do, and I feel really important around that. There's a level of importance with your values, and those are not something you just say, I like this, this is my value. You essentially refine them, you work on them, you learn from them, and become a lifelong learner, right? An advocate. Advocacy is one of my values. But in the profession of school counseling, that is definitely going to be a value that most counselors would probably have. But then what you do in that situation, for example, is um, you find ways what motivates you in that profession, how you're using that. And it could be experiences, right? In your journal today, as you're writing, is those are things that you're talking about. So write your values down. Things are that you feel like this is what I really do feel who is a part of me right now. Okay. And this is something that you should be truly focused on as you continue to think about what motivates you in life. And some of them, you as a value has about wealth, that could absolutely motivate you. We all have our ways of doing things, and that's okay. So write these down. Time to write these down in your journal. So as we conclude, is there anything that you need to be addressed as a team? Do you feel that the session helped you to learn a little bit more about yourself? And I want you to do this. I want you to think further. I want you to think about their motivators for how their daily life occurs. Think about how your daily life starts from point A to point Z or point A to point B, right? How does what motivates you in those situations? Maybe coffee motivates you because without coffee, you're going to have a rough day. So you don't want to have a rough day. So guess what? There you go. So in our formative assessment today, um, what are examples that you can point out that show what intrinsic and extrinsic motivations are? What are specific examples that help form your connection to a value that live by in this? You got to think of specific examples. What are the reasons for living with our values or by our values or for our values? And use specific examples. We will have the form assessment at the end. So, what did you enjoy most? And I want you to think about this out loud. What did you enjoy most about this activity today? Classroom discussion would be a good one. Um, the engagement, right? You young adults, as seniors in high school, this is something that's really important. Um, do you feel good about this activity? How it best serves you? Remember, the next 3 lessons are about you. As you connect yourself in life, this is really important that you continue to know that you only have an X amount of essentially months left here in high school, but it's important that we look at the next steps in our journey. We can give you tools, but it's based on how you. So in our post evaluation, if you want to take out your first answers from the pre, um, what is motivation? That drive. How do you measure motivation? Well, we find what drives us. What's our purpose in that situation? Which leads to what we talk about in this unit is self-determination. What is intrinsic motivation? Yes, it is that inward point of reward, right? And what is extrinsic motivation? It's almost like that physical, right? That peace, that we can actually get to see, whether it be that coffee, whether it be that paycheck, right? But again, many people could say, can I have both? Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, everybody, in class here and there. All right, thank you.